Today's video is a deep delve about all things foundation, how to prep your skin, how to get it to last, some recommendations for great foundations. I've actually harped on for so long that this is a two-part special, so I hope you enjoy. As always, everything I've used is listed in the description of the video, but please feel free to substitute all of this with whatever you've got at home. And if you're looking for the perfect foundation, leave me a comment, tell me about your skin, and I'll recommend something that I think will work really well for you. As I'm going through, I've written down questions that you've asked me in particular around foundation. So I'm going to go through them as I'm going along. Jem, you'd asked me for tips on a really long lasting base. And I really think that a lot of the prep is, well, actually all of the work is in the prep, and that's what gives you a lasting base. So the first thing I would do is choose a moisturizer, or if it's the day that you're going out, your SPF, to suit your skin type. Now, I'm going to use Clinique Moisture Surge today. This summer, this was probably the skincare item I used the most of. What I like about it is that it's a gel texture, it's very hydrating, but it also absorbs really quickly. So if you're like me and you're very dry, but you also kind of want to leave the house as quickly as possible, this is a really great one for you. Whatever your skin type, I would keep in mind to find a formula that feels good for that. And if it's the morning routine, like let's say, for example, I'm not leaving the house today, I'm literally just chilling, so I haven't got any SPF on. But like if you've got dry skin and you're leaving the house for the day and you don't have a lot of time, Avene have lovely rich SPFs that would more than hydrate your skin as well as being your SPF step, and it would mean that you're not having to wait for both of those things to dry before you put your base on. Because let me see here, Christine, you had asked me about foundation pilling. That's where it rolls off in little balls sometimes. I think we've all had that happen at some point or another. That can be a number of things. You may have too many layers on if you've got your serum and your moisturizer and your SPF, and you know, potentially they haven't had enough time to have your skin drink them up before you put your foundation on. It could also be that your moisturizer and foundation aren't compatible. So for example, if you have a water-based moisturizer and then an oil-based foundation. But for the most part, I would say, if you've got time, let's say if you woke up, brushed your teeth, got your skincare on, left everything for 5 minutes to make a cup of tea, even that short space of time can make a big difference to how well everything layers together. That said, just to overcomplicate it, but because we're talking all things base, depending on the foundation that you like to wear, you might prefer to apply your foundation when your moisturizer is still tacky to give it a bit of slip. So it's a bit of a combination of the factors that you're working into your routine, how hydrating you want things to be, how many layers you're planning to use. But ultimately, these are all great things to consider and get really clear on before you actually go anywhere near the shops to buy anything. Another quick thing I would say, in particular in the winter, because it's freezing outside all of a sudden, it might be warmer at home. Get your makeup off in the evening as early as possible and get your skincare on as early as possible, because then not only have you got the benefit of your skincare working overnight, but let's say if you're sat on the couch all evening, you're giving it the time to sink in. It also just ticks one less thing off the list for right before bed. But also, if your skin is feeling a bit tight or parched, you've got the opportunity to add a little bit more if you need to. Just a quick note on primers. 9 times out of 10, I personally think that if you're treating your skin with skincare, so for example, if you're using something really hydrating if you've got dry skin, or if you're using something oil controlling if you've got combination skin, you could in theory skip the primer because maybe your skincare is taking care of that step for you. There are exceptions. So if I have a look here, for example, Mrs. Mango, you wanted to know how to get your foundation to stay on when you've got a really oily T-zone. You might like something mattifying down the T-zone. You don't need to put it everywhere, but having that extra bit of help in those places makes a big difference. Some recent things that I think you might like, the Mattifine 12-Hour Shine Control Primer from MAC, I think is really good. This Murad is an investment. I've mentioned this a lot before. The reason I bring this up, I have this in my kit. This is one of those things that if I'm doing a bride and she's got combination or oily skin, or even if I'm just conscious that I don't want her to have to powder all day, I really rely on this, and it's something that fills me with a lot of confidence, and I've recommended this to a lot of people. As I say, definitely an investment, but if oiliness and in particular reducing the appearance of texture from things like pores is important to you, I do really recommend that one. If you love the thought of a primer, if primer is just something that you want to use, I feel like no one does it better than Laura Mercier. And you'll notice as well, I do have these in my kit as well. What she does, what I disagree with, is like a primer for the sake of a primer. I feel like it should be doing something if you're going to add it to your routine. So for example, she has an illuminating primer that you can keep in mind if you're a bit dull, or she has the hydrating primer if you're a bit dry. So, you know, if there is a real purpose to your primer, go for it. But otherwise, I just feel like that's money that you could either save or spend elsewhere in your makeup bag to get a better full face. Now today, when I was thinking about foundation, I thought I want to recommend something quite universally flattering, affordable, kind of a tried and tested fail-safe. So I'm going to use True Match today. I haven't used this in so long. The L'Oreal foundation I tend to wear is the Infallible because it's a really full coverage, and you know me with the redness. But I put this on yesterday and I forgot how simple it is. So I just thought it would be a nice one for the purpose of showing you this video. However, that said, what I also wanted to tell you is, like, keep in mind, one of my previous jobs, I used to be a beauty personal shopper at Selfridges, and I was employed by Selfridges themselves rather than any one brand, so I could give you a completely unbiased consultation across everything. While I tell you this, by the way, I'm going to use the Peaches and Cream PC19, another affordable great foundation brush. If you haven't found your perfect foundation yet, feel free in the comments section to tell me how much coverage you want, what your skin type is like, and what you want to achieve. So like, for example, if you want something really quick and easy that's light coverage for the school run and you've got dry skin, or if you've got oily skin and it tends to separate down the T-zone and you want something full coverage and long wearing, or have you got hyperpigmentation and you want coverage that doesn't look or feel too heavy, you tell me and I will pick the perfect thing for you. I've bought a couple of foundations in to give you a bit of a starting point, but in all honesty, foundation is one of those things. So many people will say, what's the best foundation? What do you think the best one is? And it is one of the most personal things in your makeup bag because it is so about your needs, your lifestyle, how much time you're going to have to top up. Let's say, for example, my favourite everyday base that I always wear is the It Cosmetics CC cream, which is another reason why I thought I'll use something different today, because I feel like I'm always showing you the CC cream. But like, that's quite rich, and so if it's a day where I'm not going to have time to top my makeup up, I'll wear the oil-free one because I know I don't need to powder that one as much. So tell me as much as you can and I will choose a perfect base for you. Just to mention as well, I don't read my DMs, but I always read the comments. So if I've missed anything, put it to me in the comments and I'll always pick it up that way. So a quick note on base. I wish you could see through the screen, but something I would recommend regardless of your skin type or the level of coverage that you're hoping to achieve, use as soft a touch as you can, because especially when you're rushing, it's so easy to scrub everything on and you've ended up kind of taking things off rather than building them up. So be really nice and soft with your touch. If you want to use brushes, this is something actually I meant to tell you. Different brands have different philosophies about how their products are best used. So for example, where have I put it here? Laura Mercier is an example of a brand where she believes in applying things with the fingertips, and so you'll find that all of her foundations are best used with the fingers. NARS is another one. On the flip side, something like the Atelier Ultra Foundation Pro This is one of the best foundations I have ever bought. This is up there with the CC cream for me in terms of how much I rate it. This is really good. I saw this on, I never shut up about this, but do you remember I was telling you that journalist in America, Kirby Johnson, she did the tour of the Euphoria set, and that Donny Davy uses this for when she wants skin to look like skin but needs coverage, and like it's such a deceiving level of coverage, you don't look like you've got a lot on. This is really pigmented and really dense, and so you need to buff and buff and buff with a brush. I was discussing this with someone the other day that hadn't got on well with it, and they said, well, how are you using it? Because you love it and I'm just not seeing the love. And I said, try it with a tiny brush, lots of little motions, and keep going. And then it was a completely different foundation. So do have a look, whatever you're wearing, about how the brand recommends that you use it. It sounds simple, but it makes a big difference. I tend to be a brush girl. If you can stretch to it, the IT Cosmetics Complexion Perfection brush is my favourite thing. You can use it for any kind of creams, powders as well. It's good for buffing everything on, or also good for just getting like a really even coverage. The Peaches brushes are affordable and fantastic and come in a huge variety of shapes. I've got loads of these. If you're a sponge person, I'm coming round to sponges, but my issue with them is that they do drink up a lot more of your product. Whenever I mention this, people say, no, you're meant to wet the sponge, and I do wet the sponge, I promise you, but they do drink up. If I, for example, use a sponge with my CC cream, it'll take me 3 pumps to get the same level of coverage that I can get in a pump or a pump and a half. So, you know, I would just keep that in mind. However, sponges are brilliant, in particular if you've got dry skin, to press everything on rather than rubbing in. It can really help. I'm knocking everything over, sorry. If you've got flaky skin in particular, to just pat this on means that you're not lifting anything up. And I wanted to show you this one. What is the name of it? This is a new brand that have come to QVC. TruYu. This sponge feels a bit denser than other sponges I've got, so even though it expands and it will give you the same finish, I don't feel like it's drinking up quite as much product, and I did notice that when I gave that a go. I think Instagram might cut me off now because we have to do our videos 15 minutes at a time, so have a look in the comments section and I'm going to upload a part 2.